The plight of people who go hungry is one we tend to associate mainly with the developing world, but it's an issue much closer to home than we think.
In a moment, a snapshot of the Australian reality, but first, a special report from the daughter of Bill and Hillary Clinton. Chelsea Clinton met a group of people who can't afford to feed themselves.
Do you all come every day?
School's out for the day in Seminole County, Florida, and nearly 200 students have come here to the Boys and Girls Club after-school program. But before they do their homework, they're hungry. Here in Central Florida, 1 in 4 kids doesn't get enough to eat at home.
We good? You're welcome for your food.
Programs like this one only get enough money from the government for a small snack, like a granola bar. But these kids need more, and they get more.
What's the yellow stuff called?
Corn. Years ago, much of this food would have ended up in the garbage. Not anymore.
There's no reason to throw all that food out, and there's a much better use for it.
Drew Madsen is the president and chief operating officer of Darden Restaurants. Now, in every Darden restaurant, there's a system in place to donate excess food. Like this chicken marsala. The customer changed her mind before it was served. So it's bagged, tagged, and frozen for donation. Other times, the process is more elaborate. Steak trimmings that would have been thrown away are now cooked and packaged, ready for pickup. Here, at the Orlando Union Rescue Mission, tonight's dinner comes from Red Lobster.
Okay.
It's a welcome sight for Juan Rocha. A year ago, Juan says he and his wife Yachty were down to their last $130. Now, they live at the mission with their 2 children, where all of their meals come from donated food.
And so how does it make you feel knowing that your kids can have a nutritious meal?
It's a blessing.
It's a blessing.
Very blessing. Every day is a different meal. Every day is a different meal.
Do you have favorites?
Us?
Not anymore.
Not anymore?
No.
Why do you say that?
Because before, I was picky, you could say. Now it's like whatever I can have in front of me. It's a blessing have a plate at my table. Now I appreciate what I have.
Yesterday at the rescue mission, we met a family, and they shared with us that without the rescue mission and the food that Darden provides, they would be eating out of trash cans.
Yeah.
And how does it make you feel?
And so it makes us very proud. It's just fantastic. It really is.
So hunger clearly isn't a problem confined to economically undeveloped nations. To talk about this issue here in Australia, we're joined by John D, who is the founder of Do Something, and Katie Barfield from SecondBite is in Melbourne. Hello to both of you.
Hello.
Good morning. Now, first of all to you, Katie, what is the extent of the issue with hunger here in Australia?
Well, I wish the example that we just saw was in isolation, but it's not. We're seeing a lot of that here in Australia. At the moment, we know 1.2 million Australians are regularly running out of food and don't have enough money to purchase more, although we think that figure is fiercely understated because those statistics are so old. And certainly our recipients survey in 2010 and 2011 showed a dramatic increase in the number of people that are accessing services. I received a letter only last week about a single father, and watching that clip reminded me of him. And he was a part of our SecondBite's emergency outreach service, which takes fresh, nutritious food into the homes of people that are doing it really tough. And he literally broke down and cried, because it meant that his 2 children would have something in their lunchbox, and they hadn't had anything to go to school with in their lunchbox for weeks.
Right, wow. And we know that is a massive impediment to learning when children aren't going to school on a full stomach and don't eat throughout the day.
Absolutely.
Katie, we saw in Chelsea Clinton's story just then that a restaurant chain in the US is donating all its waste. Is there anything similar happening here?
Oh, absolutely. Since the introduction of the Good Samaritan Act, and the final state came online in 2008, businesses can donate food free of common law liability, as can farmers. What we're particularly interested in at SecondBite is those large volumes of fresh, nutritious food that are going to waste from farmers, growers, wholesalers, from large events like the one we saw actually in the previous clip. You know, good quality, fresh, nutritious food, and we have the ability to collect and redistribute that to the hundreds of thousands of people that are doing it tough.
Now, John, on one hand, as Katie's mentioned, as many as 1 in 10 people in Australia can't really afford to feed themselves adequately. On the other hand, we waste a lot of food.
Oh, we do. We're spending about $7.8 billion a year on food that we buy and then throw away into landfill. So that's about $1,000 for each and every household around Australia.
Is that food left over on the plate or food that never makes it to the plate?
That's food left over on the plate.
Right,
and if you look at the amount of tonnes from the business sector and the household sector that ends up in landfill, about 4 million tonnes a year of good quality food ends up in landfill in Australia.
OK, so what's your advice? Obviously, we're putting too much on our plates. I mean, this goes back to the obesity epidemic too, I guess.
Yes, you're absolutely right. There are some basic tips that you can follow that will make a real difference and save you money and help the environment. So, you know, write a shopping list. That's always a really good way to go. And when you're writing that shopping list, make sure that you're using up the food that you already have in your pantry, your fridge or your freezer. And, you know, never shop when you're hungry. That's a really basic tip, but when you are hungry and you shop, you always buy more than you need. You fall prey to those 2-for-1 offers. That, you know, if you're cooking portions, make sure you only cook the right amount, and of course, use airtight containers. You know, like the old Tupperware.
The Tupperware.
Yes, all that kind of stuff. You know,
Tupperware's
it makes
gone right out of
sense.
fashion, and people don't like to eat leftovers anymore, but they're great.
Well, believe it or not, the sales of those kind of things like Tupperware and other airtight containers that you can get in the supermarkets going through the roof.
Are they
because
right now?
It's a guaranteed way to save money because it makes your food last longer.
Yeah, right. I think, I mean, not that I can talk because I'm a terrible cook, but, you know, having a broader sort of repertoire of what you eat probably helps as well, because you can't use a limp broccoli for some things, but you can use it for other things.
And it's actually quite fun to go through the fridge and go, OK, now I've got to eat that broccoli because tomorrow, you know, and to actually concoct.
Well, do something. We've got a website called foodwise.com.au, and we've got all those tips and recipes from some very famous chefs and from ordinary members of the public. So foodwise.com.au. If you want to find out how to save food and save money, that's the website to go to.
And hopefully with some of the money you save on saving food, as well as maybe taking a little weekend away somewhere with your loved one, you might have a bit left over to donate to something like SecondBite to make sure that those who aren't getting enough food in the first place are getting some.
Good idea.
Yeah, good one. All right, thank you, John. Thank you, Katie. Lovely chatting to you this morning. Good on you.